sci-fi fantasy takes you into this completely different world that you are not living, and you can live in this realm for however long you want to with this fantastic life, and then turn it off and you're back to your world. I don't want to watch shows about doctors. I think that's boring. Or shows about cops. How many shows are there on TV about cops? Way too many. I don't understand the fascination with cops. They're just one part of a society. Not everybody is a cop. Not everybody is a doctor. Okay, we need variety. I think sci-fi shows and fantasy shows are some of the most creative shows you will ever see on TV. I mean, there are endless possibilities with what you can do with sci-fi and fantasy. I mean, even if you have a source material like Vampire Diaries does, you can go in a completely different direction from the book, and like they've been doing, and nobody's complaining because it's fantastic. The quality, it has been absolutely superb this season, and the last half of the first season. Like I said, you can go in whichever direction you want to with fantasy. You think they're going one way, and then boom, they take you the other direction. I love it. I like being on my toes. I don't like to know what's coming next. That's boring. I mean, that's simple as that. That I would not watch a show if I knew what was coming next. Also, with fantasy and sci-fi, you can take the same idea and make it completely different for each show. Like, okay, Buffy is about vampires. Obviously, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And those vampires are 100% different from how Supernatural presents vampires. And then again, how Supernatural presents vampires is completely different from Vampire Diaries or True Blood. I don't watch True Blood, but I mean, I've seen enough clips to know what it's about and know how they, how vampires act. Some shows give vampires souls. Some shows, like Buffy, the vampires have absolutely no souls. So same idea, completely different worlds. I love it. And I also think sci-fi shows are very thought-provoking for some reason. I don't know why. People think I'm probably crazy, but I think most sci-fi shows bring up some idea, and the way they twist and turn it, it makes you think, and they don't necessarily make you say, oh, okay, this is how it is. They bring up this idea, and then you can think about it. And your ideas are going to be completely different from the person next to you watching the same show. I guess one of the examples I could give of that is Buffy with the idea of a soul. Okay, if you've watched Buffy, Angel has a soul and Spike does not have a soul, but okay, spoiler, I guess if you haven't seen Buffy, Spike gets his soul at the end of season 6, and he acts completely different, but he wanted to get the soul before he actually had it. I think that is so thought-provoking because, I mean, even though he was soulless during season 2 through season 6, he still had some sort of a moral compass towards the end, because when he did that awful thing to Buffy, he knew he was wrong, even though he had no soul. So I'm getting way too deep for this stupid introduction, but I'm just saying, there are so many things that are brought up that you can just think about. Also in Merlin and his destiny, he knows he has his destiny, but does he have to follow it? No, but he does. He is following it. Those are just some of the things. And also, I think sci-fi and fantasy have some of the more talented actors and directors and writers and music producers in Hollywood, or whatever Hollywood equivalent is in England, because I think England's shows are 100 times more quality than American shows, other than the sci-fi shows. But yeah, they get actors, and the actors are so underappreciated. It makes me so mad. The stupid award shows, I don't know why I ever watch them, but the actors, like Supernatural, for example, it gets a bad rap because it's on the CW, which is geared towards teens, but Supernatural is probably their highest quality show that they have had on in a long time. Season 5 was a little iffy for me, personally. I know a lot of people liked it, but the writing has been fantastic. You don't get the same quality of writing and acting that you get in sci-fi that you do with, like, you know, stupid like SVU or Grey's Anatomy. No, nothing really more I can say on that. The quality is just fantastic. And Battlestar Galactica has the most beautiful soundtrack you will ever hear on a TV show. I'm pretty convinced of that. I don't think you can get more fantastic than Battlestar Galactica soundtrack. What else about sci-fi? This video is getting way too long. I'm gonna have to edit it. Sci-fi. I think just overall sci-fi makes life completely exciting and fantastic. I say fantastic a lot. I don't know why. But do you know how boring life would be without sci-fi and fantasy? You'd be watching shows about basically your life. You'd be living in your realm, your world. You know, you would never be thinking outside the box. And you would never have these discussions about, you know, whatever came up in a sci-fi show or fantasy show. That's all I can really say on that. Like, it makes me think outside the box. And sci-fi shows are deep. I don't care what people say about stupid Star Wars or Vampire Diaries. It's not fluff, okay? It is deep. Though sci-fi shows are deep. I know people probably are laughing at me right now. Sci-fi shows have a lot of heart to them, a lot of character development. I've never seen shows that are not fantasy that have as much character development as sci-fi does. And last, in a very shallow way to end why I love sci-fi and why I'm going to be doing this, there are endless quotes about sci-fi from each show. I cannot tell you how many shows I can quote from Supernatural. Supernatural season 1 I have seen so many times. Like, I've probably seen each disc at least 50 times since I bought it my sophomore year of college. At least. And that's probably an under exaggeration. That's how much I love Supernatural. And I can pick out quotes from each episode and tell you them right off the top of my head. And I can also tell you who wrote each episode, what songs were in each episode. I can tell you from watching the trailers of what happened before of what episode we're going to be watching. That's how much I live and breathe Supernatural. But anyways, there are so many quotes. Oh, I forgot to add Chuck. Chuck is a fantasy kind of that I'll probably be reviewing. But there are so many quotes from fantasy shows that you can just quote in your daily life. And if you're around sci-fi geeks, they probably will know what you're talking about. I want to get sometime in this year, I want to get shirts from each of my favorite sci-fi shows that have my favorite quotes on them. Like Battlestar Galactica, I think the biggest one is "What the frack?" or "Frack off." I mean, it's a brilliant way to use the F word on TV. show, and if you say frack, I'm pretty sure people are going to know that you're talking about Battlestar Galactica. I hate the F word, absolutely despise it. You will not be hearing me curse on my video, blog, but I think what the frack is brilliant. I use it every day, probably, because it gets what I am thinking out without being vulgar. If you're a big Doctor Who fan, season 1, the Doctor said fantastic a lot. That's probably where I got it. Fantastic. Christopher Eccleston said fantastic all the time. There goes the clock again. And then David Tennant, who is the cutest thing ever, as the Doctor, said what all the time. When he is confused or excited, he's like, what? What? He says it louder and louder and louder. I absolutely love it. And if you know Doctor Who, you would know that I'm quoting Doctor Who, or that I'm imitating Doctor Who. That's why I love sci-fi. It's just completely endless. Or if I'm talking about Jane from Firefly, if I say the word name Jane, people know that I'm talking about Jane from Firefly, because who else do you know that's a boy that's named Jane who loves guns? No one. I'm pretty sure no one. So yeah, that's a little bit about why I love sci-fi. This video is probably in 2 parts. I hope I can edit it down to two parts. Nothing like a long, boring explanation, but yeah, anyways, if you think I should add any more shows, comment. If you want to see anything else, comment. Or, if you have suggestions about what you want to see in each review, comment. I'll try to make my video reviews about 10 minutes. I like long reviews. I don't like short reviews. I like to dig into each episode, so that's probably what you'll see. You may see a vintage hairstyling video every once in a while, so forgive those, but I'm not making 2 video logs or 2 YouTube accounts for me. That's obnoxious, and I can't keep up with those. So, and there might be random things of me singing, because I sing in church all the time and people like to record it, so I put it up. But yeah, I will see you later. Bye.